The Eastern Conference Final is officially set and starts later tonight. In it, we have the Carolina Hurricanes and Florida Panthers, who could not be more of different teams entering this Eastern Conference Final. Carolina doesn't have a lot of depth scoring and don't win games with big scores and lots of goals, but defensively, they're one of the best teams in the NHL, and out of the four remaining teams, they are probably the best defensive team throughout this playoffs. And that is shown through Frederik Andersen, their goalie, having a 7-2 record with a 1.36 goals against average and a 937 save percentage. They've gotten the goaltending that they've needed throughout this playoffs, and they've had minimal shots against and goals against throughout, and they've dominated the two teams that they've played so far in this Stanley Cup playoffs in New Jersey, beating them 4-1 and in 5 games, and then beating Washington in 5 games as well. And that Washington series win was absolutely dominant. And they took a team that had scored a lot throughout the regular season and made them look very average. Tom Wilson and Alexander Ovechkin looked very performative in that series and were very poor and subpar in terms of scoring the puck. And Washington was a team that won their division and was second place in the entire league in terms of standings. But they looked very, very, very average against Carolina. And then you have Florida, who has a ton of depth scoring, but isn't as strong defensively. And while they still are a solid defensive team, their prowess comes in scoring the puck and scoring in a lot of different ways. They have a lot of guys that can score the puck and are very solid producers for them. Brad Marchand and Eetu Listerainen lead them with points with 3 goals, 9 assists, and 12 points. And Sam Reinhart has 4 goals, 7 assists, and 11 points. And then you have Sam Bennett all the way down with 10 points, who is sixth in terms of points, but first in goals with 6. And then you have 4 more guys who have 4 goals or more. And Matthew Tkachuk, Carter Verhaeghe, Nate Schmidt, and Seth Jones. And you have Sam Reinhart and Anton Lundell as well. So you have a lot of guys for Florida that can score the puck and have scored throughout this playoffs. And they are by far the deeper team when it comes to scoring in this Eastern Conference final. But when you look at Sergei Bobrovsky's stats, he's 8-4 with a 2.31 goals against average and a 901 save percentage, which is 36 points lower than Frederik Andersen's. And he has almost a goal a game more than Frederik Andersen in terms of goals against average. And this team in Florida is a team that's going to play a very hard, very physical, and that's going to be a good matchup for Carolina because both of these teams are very physical teams. Florida has earned themselves a dirty label throughout this playoffs, but that can be warranted at times, but they are just a physical team, and teams like Toronto struggled with that. And Florida beat Tampa Bay 4-1 in their first round series and then beat Toronto 4-3 in their second round series and won 4 of the last 5 games in that series. But in terms of the matchup between Carolina and Florida, it will be very interesting to see how both teams can adjust to playing against this other team because Carolina does not score the puck a lot. But if Florida gets out to a 2-0 or 3-0 lead, it'll be interesting to see how Carolina can adapt to having to score the puck more than they have had to in past series, or if they can shut down Florida like they did shut down Washington. Carolina only has 5 guys, that have over 3 goals, while Florida has multiple players who can score and they can score in bunches at times as well, as we've seen in the Toronto series. In the Toronto series, Florida would go on runs where they would score 3 goals in 6 minutes, like they did in Game 7, and they can really beat up a team, wear them down, and then score in bunches. And Carolina has had problems scoring in this playoff run. And in the one game that they lost to Washington, it was a game where they only lost 2-1 and in overtime, I believe. And this team is just a team that's not as strong on the offensive end. And you have guys like Andrei Svechnikov that has 8 goals already this postseason. Seth Jarvis can score for them. Sebastian Aho has 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. And you have Shane Gostisbehere and Logan Stankoven with 3 goals each. But if you look at this team in the first 3 games of this series against Washington, they scored only 5 goals, I believe. So they have struggled to score the puck. So it'll be a matter of, will Florida be able to overcome Carolina's defense with their scoring, or will Carolina be able to score enough to keep up with the Florida Panthers, and will their depth be able to keep up? Frederik Andersen is going to be a huge factor in this series, and I could see him stealing a couple games for the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina's had some problems in the Eastern Conference Finals before, being swept multiple times, and this is actually a matchup of last year's conference final where Florida won. But I think that Carolina will put up much more of a fight come this season and come this year's Eastern Conference Finals, just because of how good Carolina has been defensively. And if they can shut down the Florida's offense, they have a good chance of staying in the series. And I think it's definitely going to go 7 games. At the very minimum, it'll go 6. But Carolina and Florida are in a very evenly matched series for this year's Eastern Conference Finals, and it's going to be game to game which version of each team we see on any given night, and which version of Sergei Bobrovsky we will see. Because even in last year's Stanley Cup Final against Edmonton, the first 3 games of that series, he was lights out, and for 3 games, he was very subpar. And then for the last game 7, he was unbelievable and won them the game by only allowing 1 goal to an amazing Edmonton offense. So the version of Sergei Bobrovsky that we will see in this series will determine which version of the Florida Panthers we'll see. And if Florida can get under Carolina's skin like they did last year, like they did to Toronto, they'll have a much better chance of winning this series. And it's going to come down to which version of each team we will see in the series. God bless you all. Have an amazing day, and let me know in the comment section below which team you think will win and in how many games. God bless you all, and have an amazing day.